Welcome back, everyone. So I have an area on the layout that needs a structure. Now, I don't have any unbuilt structures that are small enough to fill that spot. So I thought I'll get on the computer and design my own. And I thought, what would be a unique structure that would fit in a small spot? And I thought a newsstand. So again, I got on the computer, I designed it, and as I was designing it, I thought this would make a great kit for someone who has a small spot on their layout that they're looking for something to go there. So the structure we're going to build today is currently available on my website at jasonjensentrains.com. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to build that kit. Now, before we get started, let me show you the area where it's going to go. So the area is right there. We'll have to build up the land right there, create a foundation, and then the newsstand will sit right in there. I think it's the perfect spot. You could stop at the newsstand, pick up a couple model railroad magazines, go next door, get some comic books, and then go grab lunch at the Burger Shack. You could even go across the street and get your hair cut. All right, well, let's get building this. Okay, so here are all the parts that you'll need. And I'll just show them quick to you. All right, we're going to start with the wood walls. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray paint the back of this with a green color. Now, we're not able to brace the back of the walls because there's an interior that gets built. So we can't have the bracing in there. So we'll spray this, let that dry, then we'll put a light stain over the walls, and then we'll add nail holes to it and then brush on our color. Okay, I sprayed the back side with moss green. And you'll notice it says satin, but it soaks into the wood and it's pretty flat looking. Now, I did 2 coats. I did 1 coat, I let it dry for a little bit, and then I did a 2nd coat. Now, we're going to put stain on this side. I did 2 coats. Hopefully, it seals the wood and prevents it from warping, but we're going to go really light with our stain. For our stain, we're going to use marine teak. And it is from besttrains.com. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some nail holes. Okay, I quick added nail holes using a pounce wheel. I'll put a link in the description below the video if you want to get one of these. I actually get them in a 3-pack. So there's one for N scale, one for HO scale, and one for O scale. And I spaced them a 1/2 inch apart. Okay, I put a weight on mine while it dried, And again, I'll put a link in the description below if you'd like to get one of these. These are called 1-2-3 blocks. I use them on every build, and I bought mine in a set of 2. Okay, now we're going to take light avocado, a thin brush, so I'm avoiding the edges of the boards and here and there avoiding the nail holes. Okay, I took some dark brown pigment. It's called Winter Soil, and brushed on a little bit at the bottom in the direction of the nail holes. Then I took our marine teak, dipped my brush in it, and dragged that pigment up the wall. Now you want to go very light, very little pigment, and just lightly drag your brush up. Now we can cut our walls out. I'm using a brand new blade. I get 100 of these at a time. And again, I'll put a link at the bottom of the video where I get these. It's easier to see where the tabs are from the back side. Okay, I put our walls to the side. Now we're going to cut out the base. And again, it's easier to see where the tabs are from the back side. Now we're going to paint this concrete color. Okay, for the concrete, I used some different shades of gray and then some pastel chalk powder and brushed in the cracks and some like dirty footprints. So this area in the back is where the newsstand will sit. This out front is all exposed. I just took my mechanical pencil and in all of the nail holes, I just put it in the hole and just give it a little twist. And the graphite from the lead in the pencil makes it a little bit silver. Okay, now we're going to take our corner trim, and the corner trim is marked with green on the end. And again, we're taking our marine teak. Now we'll just let this dry. And what should our corner trim color be? We could actually do it the same color, the green. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, the corner trim is glued on. Now we're going to assemble the back wall and the 2 side walls. So first we're going to take the back wall and glue it right onto the edge. Okay, then I've got glue on the bottom of this and the back side. Now we're going to take this wall that has the door cut in it and glue that there. Make sure it's right on the edge. Now we're going to cut these out. There's 3 of them. Now you may need a small file to make sure they're smooth. It's very important that you file those little nubs off, and I'll show you. You can see right there. If it's raised a little bit, you want that flat. Okay, now we're going to take tweezers and put some glue on these. So we're putting it on the back side and the bottom. Then that gets glued in the corner, just like that. Now we're going to do the other corner. Now this one, we're going to glue right in the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect. And there's a line on the cement right there in the center. So you can kind of go straight back from that if you want to put a little mark. Okay, we'll let that dry. Now, on here, there's 3 long pieces underneath the letters news. These 3 right here. We're going to paint those with the color fawn. You know what? Let's do antique gold. Well, first, let me see if I have enough of this. Yeah. Okay. We're not using the color fawn. We're using antique gold. Now we're going to cut these out. Now you'll notice there's engraved lines on there. So take needle nose pliers and then keep folding it, working your way down. Just take your time. Keep folding it. You don't want to fold it all the way back. Just make it look like the letter L. We're going to do that to all 3 pieces. Okay, we're going to start with the biggest one. You'll see there's doors engraved on it, and then we folded back that piece. So we're going to put glue on the ends, and we're going to put some in the center. Now, we'll work our way up. We'll do the next biggest one, and then the thin one goes on the very top. So again, glue each end, and then some in the center. The thin side goes on the bottom, or the face, the front, and the wider part goes on the top. I'll provide a diagram in the instructions so that it's a little easier for you. Okay, the second one's installed. Now again, when you glue this in, the thin one is on the face and the wider side is the top. You see how the top is wider and the face of it is thinner? Now you can take your antique gold or whatever color you used and go over the edge of those folds. Now we do have doors if you want to. These can be painted and glued over the top of the engravings on the front there. And then there's one long piece, which is a countertop, that gets glued on the top of there. So I'll go ahead and do that next. I'll paint my doors this color. That countertop I may paint silver. Okay, I just glued the doors in place. Now I'll paint this piece silver and glue that right above those doors for the countertop. Now at the same time, let's paint this one silver too, because that eventually will go across the front for the countertop. Okay, sorry, I was getting ahead of myself without filming. So out of this piece, I cut this, and there's a center piece that you have to cut out, and you can just throw that piece away. Then below it, there is this piece. Now, this one I painted using light avocado, and this one is mostly sea glass with a little bit of aloe mixed with it. Now we'll glue those on top of each other. Okay, it's actually the next day, and when I walked into my workshop this morning and looked at this, I made some changes to it. First, I took a sponge and went over the upper half of the walls with the green. I'd done a little bit too much chipping. It just looked really worn down and distressed. I then took aloe and painted the corner trim. I then put the countertop that we painted silver. I glued that onto my wall and then glued the front wall in place. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have waited to glue this in place, because there's magazines and newspapers that get glued inside here. But that's okay. We'll put them in with the tweezers. And I think while I was working on this front wall, I was holding it upside down. Not a big deal, but that's the correct position for it. Now I've painted the door frame, the window and the window frame, and these two panels aloe. Then this part, which goes behind the door here, sea breeze. So I just cut out the small window frame. I then took my file and made sure there was no little nubs from the sprue on it, filed it. I then painted the edges of it with aloe, the outer edges. Now we'll glue it in place. It's always interesting building a kit with no instructions or no picture as a guide for color or anything. So I appreciate your patience on this. Okay, now we're going to take the aloe and we're going to paint the inside of the window opening. Now, I cut out the window and I cut a piece of acetate that is the same exact size. And we'll carefully glue that in from the back side using our tweezers. You could have it opened if you wanted to. Maybe we'll do that just to add some interest. Okay, I just added the door frame and then painted the inner edge the same color. Now take the time after you cut a piece out of your sheet to take a thin brush and go over the edges quick. It doesn't take long, and it really makes the model more professional. It makes it more finished. So make sure you paint your edges, and then on this one, this is a two-part door. Sorry. So it goes like that. The back side of this, I'm going to spray this with the green so that it matches the interior of the building, because you'll see it. So I'll quick spray that. You know, I didn't spray the back of that wall, but you could. It's probably never going to be seen, but depending on camera angles, where it's at on your layout, you may see it, so you may want to paint the back of that wall. Okay, our door is finished. I even painted the doorknob silver, and I cut the acetate as close to the window size as I could. Okay, now we'll glue this in place. Now I just took the tweezers and put glue on the edges of that door, and then very carefully glued it in from the inside. Now with the color fawn, we're going to add a little bit of chipping on those, on the door frame and the window frame. Lightly going over the corners. Don't know if it's showing up on camera, but we definitely want it all to match. Now we might want to take a sponge and do a little bit on the front. Now we can go back to our pigment, winter soil, and we're just going to go along the bottom. Hopefully that's showing up. I did a little bit around the window. So in the kit, you'll receive this, and as you can see, there's lots of magazines, different newspapers. I tried to do some different years with the magazine covers. You can not use any of these and get your own off of the internet and shrink them down and cut them out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this big one, and that's going to go on the back wall. Okay, so I glued that onto the back wall. Now there's a strip under it. I'll show you. right there. And it's all candy, gum. We're going to put that on the lower level, right on top of the countertop. This is so fun. Okay, for the newspapers, I am taking, this is neutral gray number 1. I was hoping to find, I have a cool gray number 1. I don't know where it's at. But what I'm doing is I'm lightly going over the back side. And that gray bleeds through onto the front. And it adds a little gray tint to the newspaper. So it's just not a stark white. Okay, I've used every magazine. And you can see back in here on the shelves, I even have magazines and newspapers on those shelves. And then we have some signs on there. And even, hopefully you can see on the side of the walls on the inside. Okay, now we're going to take these newspapers and we're going to take this piece. Hopefully you haven't thrown that away. Let's do the bottom. So we're going to work on this side right here. And we're going to wrap the newspapers around there to make it look like bundles of newspaper. Okay, so I've done 2 so far. I made them a little bit long so we have a little bit to wrap around. Now we want to cut these the same width as our newspaper. It's kind of hard to show this on camera, but okay, I'm going to make a bunch of these and we're going to stack them on both sides in the front here. I even took a paint called Iced Coffee and a really thin brush and put little lines on there like there's rope that's tying the bundle. Okay, we're almost done. I feel like this is taking a long time for such a little structure, but we're doing a lot, adding a lot of detail to it. So there's a roof card that gets put on there, and then there's trim that goes on the side, and this side, and across the back, and then we're going to put rafter tails in the front. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is paint the underside of this with aloe. Then we have some trim. It'll be marked with blue on the end. I don't know if you can see that. but in your kit it'll have blue paint on the end. That's the trim that we're using for it. Okay, my roof card is painted green and my trim. Now before you glue that on, you want to make sure that you're done with the inside, with gluing stuff in there. If you want to put a figure in there, if you want to maybe drill a little hole and put a light in there, make sure that everything is completed before you glue this on. So I've got glue on here and I'm doing it upside down. That way I can get it pretty even on the sides. Then you can press it down and just take a brush and clean up any extra glue. Oh darn it. Before I glued that on, I was going to put my tar paper on there. Oh well. So you can either just cut one big square and glue it on there. You could paint the top of this black. I'm going to cut this into strips and glue strips on there. For a lot of the roof, you want to work upside down. So I just put a line of glue there, and I pre-cut my rafter tails. Now you line up the rafter tails with the lines on the front. If you want to add trim across the front, you can. And I should have cut all those rafter tails a little bit thinner so that this would be flush with the front. So if you want trim to go across the front, you'll need to cut those a little bit shorter. I don't know if I am able to do that. Whew, let me try. Let me try. Okay, it's a brand new blade, so it's actually working. Okay, I put trim across the front. And then there's trim that goes straight across the back. Okay, let's move on to the sign for the rooftop. Okay, here's the sheet. Okay, so we have this piece and 3 of these. So again, you want to take your file and file any little nubs off of there. Hopefully you can see that good. Okay, I'm going to spray a gray primer on this. That basically sits on the roof like this. And then our letters, news, get put on the front of that. Okay, I've sprayed a gray primer on our sign support. And then I sprayed a gray primer on the back side of the letters. Now we're going to paint the front white. Okay, I've cut my sign out. And now I'm taking some bittersweet chocolate. Okay, not much, just a little bit. I'll show it to you quick. And we'll do the same to the support. Okay, there's our sign. Now we'll get that glued onto the rooftop. So it's a little past the edge of the building. Okay, the structure is finished. Next, we're going to move on to the sign. There's two signs that go on a pole next to it. And I am making mine, let's see, 3.5 inches tall. You may want to make yours taller, shorter. It really depends on where you're putting it. And the sign could go here in the front corner. It can go here, wherever you want to put it. So I'm going to spray a gray primer on the piece I just cut and on both sides of this. Now that also gets, after we get our sign glued on there, we have these rings that go around it. So again, I just simply sprayed that piece of wood with a gray primer and the signs, and then cut out the paper signs and glued them on both sides. And then there's two rings that you'll paint and glue on both sides. Okay, that is it. This model is finished. Let me give you a closer look. Okay, let's see what it looks like on the layout. Wait a minute. That's not it. You know, I put it in place over here and it was just completely hidden. You just couldn't see any of the detail. So I took that little food place that was sitting right here and moved it over there. And you can see it also has a tall sign. I think that works. So let me show you where I put the new structure. So I had to do some rearranging over here. I had this structure on the corner, and this little structure was behind it. So I had to cut that off, put it on the side to make that fit back in there behind the sidewalk here. And we may put a little bench, a little park bench out here where people can sit. Well, I certainly didn't think that that's where that structure would go, but I think it's perfect there. I really do, right there on a busy street corner. You know, every structure I build eventually finds a home on the layout, and some take longer than others. I just keep moving them around until I find that perfect spot where I think it fits really well. All right, again, this kit is currently available on my website at jasonjensentrains.com. Now, I priced it low to make it affordable for everyone, as a way to say thank you to all of my subscribers, to all of my followers on Instagram, all of my followers on Facebook, It's just, it means so much to me, and I just want to say thank you. And if you are a Patreon member, I am giving you $15 off this kit. Again, as a way to say thank you. I appreciate my Patreon members so much. So you all will be receiving a $15 discount on the kit, and the code for that can be found on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Jason Jensen Trains. Now you have to be a paid member to receive that discount. And again, like always, a huge, huge thank you to all of my Patreon members. Incredible. You guys are the best. All right, well, we're out of time. So until next time, stay motivated and happy modeling, everyone. You know, seeing the structure over here has ignited a spark to maybe get some more work done on this side of the layout. It's been a little while since we've been over here.